Hello and welcome to SULKNATIONtv. In this episode, I'm going to discuss everything that is wrong with my CL9 Honda Accord Type S. Now, when I say everything, it makes it sound like there's a hell of a lot wrong, and there isn't. There's not that much wrong at all. Some things are maintenance that just needs to be sort of looked into. Other things could be potentially really bad. So the things that are potentially really bad, you would have thought would have come up on an MOT, especially with how recent the MOT was. So the MOT for this car was completed on the 22nd of February 2021. I took this car down to a Honda dealership in Exeter, Hendy Honda, on the 18th of May 2001 for an airbag recall, a service, and they give you a complimentary, health check. And it didn't really tally up that well from the MOT with what was found in the health check. Now, I know dealerships do sort of have targets, they try and upsell aspects, but I found my experience at Hendy Honda pretty good. All right, the forecourt of the Honda dealership is very underwhelming. I mean, it is essentially CR-Vs and Honda Jazzes, but they were really good. They were easy to communicate with, and the technician flagged some things that I think are legitimate concerns. So let's get started. The oil sump. Now, it turns out that the oil sump has 3 patches of corrosion on it. All right, it's underneath the car. You would kind of expect a bit of corrosion underneath the car. On the MOT, it says that the front and rear subframe have slight corrosion. That's fine. I mean, I bought this car from just outside Swindon. It's, in winter, the roads are gritted more regularly there than they are in the southwest, so you expect a little bit more corrosion. The car is 16 years old after all. So I wasn't, surprised. I was surprised by how the technician described the corrosion of the oil sump, which, and I quote, in the video that he sent me, I don't want to touch it in case my finger goes through it. All right, so you visually diagnosed 3 spots of corrosion. I don't really know how bad those spots are, but if a technician's telling me he doesn't want to put his finger in it, that's a little bit concerning. Now, I've owned this car for a month, so it would have had about 2 months of MOT on it when I bought it. There's no way that corrosion has developed to that level in 2 months before I owned it, or 3 months almost when I took it for that health check. So I'm a little bit perplexed. So I'm going to buy a new oil sump. I'm going to fit it, attempt to fit it myself. I will need help, and I hopefully can get some. But the next thing is the real kicker. The next thing annoyed me beyond belief. So on the MOT, it says that the brake discs are corroded and pitted, but still within working operation, let's say. The technician in his video from Honda, from the free health check, pointed out that the inner side of the brake discs is corroded. Well, that matches up so far. The outside is shiny, it's very shiny, the sun hits it, you go blind, it's shiny, but the inner side of the disc is corroded. And seeing it in the video that was sent to me, yeah, it's very corroded. Like, it looks like it's been under the sea for 4 decades, corroded. It's bad. And that turns out to be because the previous owner, who said to me he'd fitted some new brake pads, had fitted them incorrectly. So when I've been braking in this car, most of the work is being done by the front brakes, if not all of the work being done by the front brakes. Thankfully, the EBC Brake Shop UK has sorted me out with an absolutely amazing deal. So I've got yellow stuff pads coming for all 4 corners, I've got Ultima discs coming for all 4 corners, and I got an amazing deal on it. So thank you guys, it's much appreciated, and their link is in the description, because EBC brakes are good. Very good. So that's covered as well. Those first 2 problems are covered, that's fine. But no, that's not fine, that's not all it is, because somebody, in their infinite wisdom, has drilled the brake caliper carrier to drill the pin back, so I've got to replace that. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there at all, because according to the health check, the near side light and number plate light are inoperative. Yay! That means I've got to replace that. And if it's not just the bulbs, then could that be a new light? Yes. So fun times. You know, you need lights, not as much in the summer as you do in the winter, but it's nice to have them. And now it comes to the last thing, the last issue that is actually the issue that has really annoyed me. On the day of taking this car down to Hendy Honda in Exeter to have the service done, the airbag recall done, and end up getting this free health check, I noticed that the mat in my boot that sits above the space-saving spare wheel, which you can't say that much faster, space-saving spare wheel, space-saving spare wheel, space-saving spare wheel, you could just mess it up. But that was damp to the touch. It wasn't like, you know, dripping wet. You didn't, you know, press your hand down and water enveloped around your hand, but it was damp. So I was like, right, okay, I'll have to do some investigation into that. I've checked all along the gasket, along the boot. I can't feel any wet coming through, and it's been raining a lot. Today, not raining as much, but it has been raining a lot. I felt the gasket. No, it seems to be bone dry. Okay, it's only the center part of the boot, so I'm like, if it was the lights, wouldn't it be sort of across the back of the... Maybe it wouldn't be, but you know, I need to thoroughly check the lights. I've done a cursory check of just pulling open, like, you know, the sort of covers over them, and like looked and felt for any water, and I haven't found any water, but I'm gonna have to remove them to double check all the seals and gaskets and stuff. Or it's the biggest nightmare and it's a corrosion issue. Now the boot doesn't, the actual lid has no rust on it whatsoever. Essentially the inner shell, you know, where you've got like, you know, the latticed bits of metal that construct the inner workings of your car, they're dry, they're not rusted, they're in very, very superb condition. So I was like, right, I'm gonna remove the spare wheel then. So I unscrewed the spare wheel holder thing, took the spare wheel out, and oh, there's a puddle this deep in my boot, in the well that the wheel sits in, the space-saving wheel sits in. Where's that come from? I got a towel, I soaked it all up. I've put in one of those sort of, you know, fake dehumidifier things that you warm up in the microwave when it hits a pink spot and it goes back to blue and it will work again for a little while. But I am concerned because there is like the same sort of circumference as a needle, like a knitting needle, hole next to where essentially you screw in the space-saving spare wheel. And so like I got a trim removal tool and just sort of pressed down on it to see how wet it was. Is it that damp? And it broke a little bit more. And so I'm thinking, I'm hoping that it's fine and the water isn't coming up from driving it and coming underneath and firing up into the boot. But without thoroughly checking the lights, that could definitely be the actual problem. So that's a bit of a concern. And I've done a little bit of just have a look at the boot, and if you guys can think of anything, then comment below. But here's a little bit of footage of the boot. So here we have my boot. As you can see, this is the area that was damp. Feels a lot drier now, thankfully. But if I lift it up, there we go. I mean, you've got a tiny puddle that's formed. There's a little bit of water there and there. So I'm not 100% sure where that's coming from, because is it coming out of the sky? The rest of it isn't wet. The rest of the boot isn't wet at all. So I don't know what's going on. And if you can see there, that's the hole underneath that I noticed. Yeah, and I've not driven the car since I dried it out, so I don't really know where this water's coming from. I mean, is it coming from sort of this gasket, this seal that runs along here, and it's going down underneath the plastic trim and coming out that way? But then you'd think that this bit here would be wet, and it isn't. So yeah, I'm a bit stumped. I'm gonna have to remove the lights. That can't be the cause, because I haven't driven it, so there's been no water like spraying up. Not an entire waste of time. I mean, you know, the issues that this car has, or it's got a few more maintenance issues than I really thought it would have had, or I was hoping it would have had. It does mean that the mods have got to take a slight back seat until I've got these things sorted. The brakes, the oil sump are going to be needed to be done ASAP. The brakes are on order. I've got a source of sump, but you know, that's fine. Let's just hope the boot issue isn't something that requires welding, because that's just going to take... I've got not enough money as it is, so that's just going to destroy me. But we'll have to see. That's everything wrong with my CL9 Honda Accord Type S. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then please subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out the Sulk Nation TV Facebook page and Project Sulk on Instagram, that I'm keeping as Project Sulk on Instagram because I can't be bothered to change it. And until the next time, I've been me, you've been you, and well done for that.